Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Our first story is titled, Single Moms Flirting with My Husband is Testing My Patience. I never thought I'd be the type of wife to get jealous easily. Trust has always been the foundation of my relationship with Mark, my husband of 5 years. We've weathered our fair share of storms together, from the stress of starting our careers to the heartbreak of a miscarriage 2 years ago. Through it all, our bond has only grown stronger. But lately, that trust has been put to the test, all because of one person, Vanessa, the new single mom in our neighborhood. Let me start from the beginning. My name's Amy, and I'm 32 years old. I work as a marketing manager for a local nonprofit, a job that's both challenging and rewarding. Mark, 34, is a software engineer at a growing tech startup. We met in college. He was the cute, slightly nerdy guy in my economics class who always had the answers but was too shy to raise his hand. I finally worked up the courage to talk to him at a campus coffee shop. And the rest, as they say, is history. We got married a few years after graduation, settling into a comfortable life in a nice suburb. It's one of those picture-perfect neighborhoods with manicured lawns, community barbecues, and a strong sense of camaraderie among the residents. We have a close-knit group of friends here, mostly other couples our age who are also navigating the ups and downs of married life and careers. Our life was pretty idyllic until about 6 months ago, when Vanessa moved into the house across the street with her 7-year-old son, Tyler. The day she arrived, Mark and I were in our front yard, tending to our flower beds. It was a warm Sunday in early spring. The whole neighborhood was alive with the sounds of lawnmowers and children playing. "Looks like we're getting new neighbors," Mark said, nodding towards the moving truck pulling up across the street. I stood up, brushing dirt from my gardening gloves. "Should we go introduce ourselves?" Mark grinned. "Why not? I think we still have that lasagna in the freezer from when you went through your cooking phase last month." I playfully swatted his arm. "Hey, that face produced some good meals." We went inside to freshen up and retrieve the lasagna. As we walked across the street, I took in the scene. Movers were unloading furniture from the truck while a slender woman with long dark hair directed traffic. A young boy, who I assumed was her son, sat on the front steps, engrossed in a handheld video game. As we approached, the woman turned and saw us. Her face lit up with a dazzling smile. "Oh, hello there," she called out, waving us over. Up close, I could see that she was beautiful, with bright green eyes and the kind of toned physique that spoke of many hours at the gym. She was wearing yoga pants and a tank top that showed off her arms, her hair pulled back in a messy bun. "Hi, we're your new neighbors from across the street," I said, extending my hand. "I'm Amy, and this is my husband, Mark. We thought you might like a home-cooked meal after a long day of moving." Her eyes widened as she saw the lasagna. "Oh my gosh, you guys are lifesavers," she exclaimed, ushering us inside. "I was just wondering what I was going to feed him for dinner. Moving is such a hassle." We followed her into the house, which was a chaos of boxes and misplaced furniture. Tyler barely looked up from his game as we passed, but Vanessa called out, "Tyler, honey, say hello to our new neighbors." The boy glanced up, muttered a quick hi, then went back to his game. Vanessa sighed. "Sorry about that. He's been having a hard time with the move. It's just been the two of us since the divorce. It hasn't been easy." I felt the pang of sympathy. "That must be tough. How long have you been divorced?" Vanessa's smile faltered for a moment. "It's been about a year now. My ex, well, let's just say he wasn't the man I thought I married. But that's all in the past. We moved here for a fresh start. Didn't we, Ty?" Tyler grunted noncommittally in response. Mark, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "We're glad to have you in the neighborhood. The neighborhood is a great place to live, especially for families." Vanessa's gaze shifted to Mark, her smile widening. "I can already tell it's going to be wonderful, especially with such friendly neighbors." Was it my imagination, or did her eyes linger on Mark a bit too long? We chatted for a bit longer, learning that Vanessa worked as a personal trainer at a nearby gym. As we were leaving, she gave us both warm hugs. "Thanks again for being so welcoming," she said, holding the hug with Mark a beat longer than necessary. "I have a feeling we're going to be great friends." As we walked back to our house, I couldn't shake a nagging feeling in my gut. Maybe I was just being paranoid, but something about the way Vanessa looked at Mark made me uneasy. I pushed that thought aside. She was clearly going through a tough time with the divorce and move. I resolved to be a good neighbor and friend. Over the next few weeks, Vanessa seemed to pop up everywhere. She'd be out jogging when Mark left for work, always stopping to chat. She joined the neighborhood book club where we were part of. Despite admitting she wasn't much of a reader at neighborhood gatherings, she'd show up in form-fitting outfits, inevitably gravitating towards Mark. At first, I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she was just lonely and trying to make friends. But then I started noticing little things. The way she'd touch Mark's arm when laughing at his jokes. How she'd bend over unnecessarily when he was around, showing off her yoga-toned body. The flirtatious comments that always seemed to border on inappropriate. One Saturday morning, about a month after Vanessa moved in, Mark and I were having breakfast on our patio when she jogged by, wearing tiny running shorts and a sports bra. She slowed to a stop, waving enthusiastically. "Morning, neighbors," she called out, slightly out of breath. "Beautiful day, isn't it?" I nodded, taking a sip of my coffee. "It sure is. Getting in an early run?" "You know it," she said, stretching her arms above her head in a way that emphasized her flat stomach. "Hey, Mark, I noticed you out running the other day. We should be workout buddies." Mark, the ever-polite one, smiled awkwardly. "Oh, maybe. I'm not much of a runner, though." Vanessa laughed. "Don't sell yourself short. I bet you've got great stamina," she winked. I nearly choked on my coffee. "Well, we shouldn't keep you from your run," I said, perhaps a bit too quickly. "Enjoy the rest of your morning, Vanessa." As she jogged off with a wave, I turned to Mark. "Is it just me, or was that a bit much?" Mark shrugged, looking uncomfortable. "She's probably just being friendly. You know how some people are, overly familiar with everyone." I wanted to believe him, but the knot in my stomach said otherwise. As the weeks went on, Vanessa's behavior became more and more blatant. At the neighborhood Memorial Day barbecue, she challenged Mark to a game of volleyball, cheering and jumping up and down every time they scored. Later, as we were all sitting around chatting, she regaled the group with stories of her wild single days. "Of course, that's all behind me now," she said with a laugh, her eyes finding Mark. "But sometimes I miss the excitement, you know? The thrill of the chase, the passion of a new relationship." She sighed dramatically. "Don't get me wrong, I love being a mom, but sometimes a girl needs a little adult fun." I felt my cheeks burning, a mix of embarrassment and anger. Was I the only one who saw how inappropriate this was? I glanced around, but most of our neighborhood seemed oblivious, laughing along with Vanessa's stories. Mark looked uncomfortable, but he didn't say anything. That night, as we got ready for bed, I couldn't hold it in anymore. "Mark, we need to talk about Vanessa," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. He looked at me surprised. "What about her?" I took a deep breath. "Don't you think she's been a little overly friendly lately, especially with you?" Mark furrowed his brow. "What do you mean? She's just being neighborly." "Neighborly?" I scoffed, my frustration bubbling over. "Mark, she's constantly flirting with you. The touching, the comments, the way she dresses around you. It's inappropriate and disrespectful to our marriage." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Amy, I think you're reading too much into this. Vanessa's going through a tough time with her divorce. She's probably just lonely and looking for friends." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Mark was really that oblivious, or was he enjoying the attention? "So you're saying I'm imagining things?" I asked, my voice rising. "That I'm just being a jealous, paranoid wife?" Mark came over and put his hands on my shoulders. "That's not what I'm saying at all. I just think Vanessa is harmless. If it's bothering you this much, I'll try to keep some distance, okay?" I nodded, not entirely satisfied, but not wanting to push the issue further. As we got into bed, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was far from over. The next few weeks were tense. True to his word, Mark tried to limit his interaction with Vanessa, but she seemed to take this as a challenge, ramping up her efforts. She'd show up at her door with flimsy excuses, always when she knew Mark would be home. Once, she asked to borrow a cup of sugar, wearing a low-cut top that left little to the imagination. Another time, she needed help moving a heavy box that mysteriously disappeared when I offered to help instead of Mark. She started posting workout videos on social media, tagging Mark and asking for his expert opinion. When he didn't respond, she'd comment things like, "No feedback? I guess I'll have to come over and get your thoughts in person." I tried to keep my cool, reminding myself that Mark had done nothing wrong. He was always polite but distant with Vanessa, never encouraging her behavior. But it was wearing on both of us. I found myself becoming jumpier, more suspicious. Mark seemed stressed, constantly worried about how I'd interpret his interactions with Vanessa. The situation came to a head one Saturday morning in late July. I was in the kitchen making breakfast when I heard voices outside. I peeked out the window to see Vanessa talking to Mark as he washed his car in the driveway. She was wearing the tiniest workout shorts I'd ever seen and a sports bra, clearly fresh from a run. As I watched, she said something that made Mark laugh, then reached out to squeeze his arm. That was it. I had enough. I marched outside, plastering on my sweetest smile. "Hey there, beautiful morning, isn't it?" Vanessa's smile faltered for a second before she recovered. "Oh, hi, Amy. I was just telling Mark about this great new protein shake recipe, for after workouts." "How thoughtful," I said, stepping closer to Mark. "But I make sure my husband gets all the protein he needs." Mark looked between us, clearly sensing the tension. "I should probably finish washing the car." Great idea, honey, I said, giving him a kiss on the cheek. I'll help you. Vanessa, I'm sure you need to get home and shower after your run. Wouldn't want to get all sweaty and smelly, right? Vanessa's eyes narrowed slightly. Right. Well, I'll see you both around. As she jogged off, Mark turned to me with a raised eyebrow. What was that about? I sighed, the fight going out of me. Mark, we need to talk about this, for real this time. We went inside and sat at the kitchen table. I took a deep breath, trying to organize my thoughts. Look, I know you think Vanessa is just being friendly, but from where I'm sitting, it's clear she's trying to get your attention and maybe more. Mark started to protest, but I held up a hand. Let me finish. I trusted you completely. I know you'd never do anything to hurt me or our marriage, but Vanessa's behavior is making me uncomfortable. And I think we need to set some boundaries. Mark was quiet for a moment, then nodded slowly. You're right. I guess I didn't want to see it because I didn't want to believe someone would act that way. But looking back, yeah, she has been pretty inappropriate. Relief washed over me. He understood. We were on the same page. So what do you want to do? Mark asked. I thought for a moment. I think we need to confront her together. Make it clear that her behavior isn't okay and needs to stop. Mark agreed, and we decided to go over to Vanessa's house that afternoon. As we walked across the street, I felt a mix of nerves and determination. This wasn't going to be a pleasant conversation, but it was necessary. Vanessa answered the door, in a low-cut top and short shorts, her surprise evident when she saw us both. Mark, Amy, what a nice surprise. Come in, come in. We followed her into the living room, declining her offer of drinks. Vanessa sat on the couch, patting the spot next to her while looking at Mark. He deliberately sat in the armchair instead, and I took the spot next to him. Vanessa, I started, my voice calm but firm. We need to talk about something important. Her smile flattered slightly. Oh, what's up? I glanced at Mark, who gave me an encouraged nod. We've noticed that your behavior towards Mark has been overly friendly lately. The flirting, the touching, the inappropriate comments, it needs to stop. Vanessa's eyes widened with innocence. What? I'm just being neighborly. I can't believe you think. Cut the act, Vanessa, Mark interrupted, his voice stern. We both know what you've been doing. It's disrespectful to Amy and to our marriage. Vanessa's demeanor changed instantly. The sweet, innocent act dropped, replaced by a cold glare. Oh, please, I was just having a little fun. It's not my fault if your wife is so insecure she can't handle a little friendly competition. I felt my temper flare, but I forced myself to stay calm. This isn't a competition, Vanessa. Mark and I are happily married. Your behavior is inappropriate and needs to stop. If it doesn't, we'll have no choice but to distance ourselves completely and inform the neighborhood association about your harassment. Vanessa scoffed. Harassment? That's ridiculous. You can't prove anything. Maybe not legally, Mark said, but we have plenty of witnesses to your behavior at neighborhood events. Do you really want to be known as the desperate divorcee who can't respect other people's relationships? That seemed to hit home. Vanessa's face flushed. She stood up abruptly. I think you both need to leave now. As we walked to the door, I turned back. We're serious, Vanessa. This stops now, or there will be consequences. The next few weeks were tense. Vanessa seemed to be avoiding us, which was fine by me, but I couldn't help worrying that she might try something else, maybe even try to retaliate somehow. My fears were somewhat realized about a month after our confrontation. I was at the local grocery store, pushing my cart down the cereal aisle, when I ran into Karen, one of our other neighbors. Karen was a friendly, slightly gossipy woman in her early 40s who seemed to know everything that went on in our neighborhood. Oh, Amy, she said, looking uncomfortable. I'm glad I ran into you. I think you should know, Vanessa's been saying some things about you and Mark. My heart sank. What kind of things? Karen looked around, then lowered her voice. She's been telling people that you two are having marital problems. Mark's been, well, he's been pursuing her, but she turned him down because she's such a good friend to you. I felt a wave of anger wash over me. How dare she? After everything, she was still trying to cause problems? Karen, I said, keeping my voice steady, I appreciate you telling me this, but I want you to know that it's completely false. Mark and I are happier than ever. Vanessa has been inappropriately flirting with Mark for months, and when we confronted her about it, she didn't take it well. This is her way of retaliating. Karen's eyes widened. Oh my, I had a feeling something wasn't right about her. She always seemed a bit off to me, too perfect, you know? I nodded, grateful for Karen's understanding. Would you mind letting people know the truth if you hear Vanessa spreading these rumors? We really don't want this drama in our lives. Of course, dear, Karen said, patting my arm. Nobody who knows you and Mark would believe that nonsense anyways. I'll make sure to set the record straight. I thanked her and finished my shopping, my mind racing. On the drive home, I called Mark and filled him in on what Karen had told me. He was furious and brought up the idea of stopping things once and for all. I agreed, and we spent the evening discussing our options. We decided that the best course of action was to be proactive. We'd host a neighborhood barbecue, get ahead of Vanessa's rumors, and show everyone that our marriage was as strong as ever. The next weekend, our backyard was filled with sounds of laughter and the smell of grilling burgers. Almost everyone from the neighborhood had shown up, curious about the impromptu gathering. Vanessa was noticeably absent, which didn't go unnoticed by the other neighbors. As the evening wore on, Mark clinked his glass to get everyone's attention. He quickly thanked everyone for coming, sliding in a joke or two before getting to the point. Mark talked about the truth of what happened, the lies of the gossip, and all the context they needed to understand just what Vanessa had been doing. Our friends and neighbors looked shocked, then supportive. Karen spoke up from the back. We never believed those rumors for a second, dear. Anyone who knows you two can see how in love you are. There were nods and murmurs of agreement. Our neighbor, a retired police officer, stepped forward. If you're having problems with harassment, you should file a report. I'd be happy to help you through the process. Mark and I exchanged a look. We didn't want to escalate things that far, but it was comforting to know that we had support if we needed it. Thank you, Tom, Mark said. We're hoping it won't come to that, but we appreciate the offer. As the party wound down, our neighbors left, each offering words of support and encouragement. I felt the weight lift off my shoulders. We had taken control of the narrative, and our friends had our backs. From then on, things were blissfully quiet. Vanessa seemed to be laying low, probably realizing that her attempts to spread rumors had backfired. We saw her occasionally, but she avoided eye contact and quickly went inside whenever we were around. As for Mark and I, we've been doing just fine. Mark recently got a promotion at work, and we've been looking at some upgrades to bring to our home. With the drama of Vanessa out of our lives, our marriage and day-to-day is even better than ever, with our bonds having strengthened after it all. Life wasn't perfect, but it never is, and no matter what happens from here on out, I'm confident that Mark and I will be able to take it on together. That's what a good marriage is. Here are my thoughts about the story. First off, can we talk about Amy? Our girl's got nerves of steel, I tell you. When Karen dropped that bomb about the rumors, I was half expecting Amy to go full Real Housewives and start flipping tables. But nope, she kept her cool like a cucumber in a freezer. That's some serious self-control right there. I know more than enough of my fair share of ladies that would pull some stuff that would send them straight to jail if a girl was latching onto their husbands like Vanessa did. And Mark? Let's give this dude a round of applause for not falling for Vanessa's flirty shenanigans. In a world where it seems like every other story is about some fool cheating on their partner, it's refreshing to see a guy who's actually loyal. My man, you're giving us hope for humanity. The bar was 6 feet under, but now it's ground level. Huzzah! Now let's address the elephant in the room, or should I say, the Vanessa in the neighborhood. At first, I wanted to reach through my screen and give her a good old shake. Like, girl, what are you doing? You're a single mother. Do not invite the drama of an affair, even an attempted affair, into your home, especially with such a young child to take care of. Dating after a divorce isn't the wrong thing to do, but it sure as hell becomes wrong when your target is married. I'm glad that she backed off in the end, but it still stands that she should have done so way sooner. The neighborhood barbecue scene? Pure genius. I was mentally high-fiving Amy and Mark for taking control of the narrative. It's like they looked at Vanessa's rumor spreading and said, hold my beer. The way they rallied their neighbors around them was beautiful to see. It just goes to show, when you've got a strong foundation of trust and respect in your community, no amount of petty gossip can tear you down. Another refresher in the modern era. Considering how the internet takes claims, both false and true, and runs off with them, screaming from the top of its lungs. But still, from the details we got in the story, it doesn't seem like Vanessa or our happy couple is moving. That's going to be awkward in the future. I'm not saying the couple should move though. Vanessa maybe, but our dynamic duo? Oh heck no. Mark and Amy are in the right, and they should stay right where they are and dig in those heels. Stand proud and don't try to ruin a marriage. Solid advice, guys. Solid advice. And now, guys, we will move on to the second story of the video. Please like the video if you have enjoyed it so far. The story starts like this. Boyfriend's emotional affair with a coworker revealed. I always believed in trust and open communication in relationships. But when you start to feel like something's off, Like there's a wall growing between you and the person you love. Sometimes you do things you never thought you would. My name's Gloria, and up until a month ago, I thought I was in a happy, stable relationship with my boyfriend of 3 years, Steven. We met in college, started dating in our senior year, and had been going strong ever since. Or so I thought. Steven and I both landed jobs at different companies after graduation. I went into marketing, while he pursued his passion for graphic design. We moved in together 6 months ago, taking that next big step in our relationship. At some point, we'd even opened up a tentative conversation about each other's opinions on marriage. Everything seemed perfect. But lately, something had felt off. Stephen had been working late more often, always with the excuse of a big project. He was constantly on his phone, smiling at texts and quickly putting it away when I entered the room. When we were together, he seemed distracted, like his mind was somewhere else. I tried to talk to him about it, but he always brushed off my concerns. It's just work stress, he'd say. Don't worry about it. But I did worry. The nagging feeling in my gut wouldn't go away. In fact, it only grew as the suspicious behaviors from Steven began to stack up. It all came to a head one Saturday night. We were supposed to have a date night, our first in weeks. I made reservations at our favorite restaurant, bought a new dress, even got my hair done. I was excited to reconnect, to shake off the weird vibe that had been hanging over us. Every relationship had its rough patches, but I was hoping that the night could be turning points for ours. But at 6 p.m., an hour before our reservation, Steven called. "Hey, Rhea," he said, his voice tinged with guilt. "I'm so sorry, but I'm going to have to cancel tonight. This project is really kicking my ass, and I need to stay late to finish it." I felt my heart sink. "Steven, we've been planning this for weeks. Can't it wait until tomorrow?" "I wish it could, but the client needs it first thing Monday morning. I promise I'll make it up to you." I wanted to argue, to tell him how important this was to me, but I swallowed my disappointment. "Okay," I said, trying to keep the hurt out of my voice. "Don't work too late." "I won't," he promised. "Love you." "Love you too," I replied, but the words felt hollow. After hanging up, I stood in our apartment, all dressed up with nowhere to go. Anger and frustration bubbled up inside me. This wasn't fair. This wasn't how relationships were supposed to work. In that moment of hurt and anger, I made a decision. I was going to find out what was really going on. I knew Steven's phone password. He'd given it to me ages ago, a gesture of trust. I'd never used it before, had never felt the need to. But now, I grabbed his iPad from the coffee table and typed in the code. As soon as I opened his messages, my heart dropped. Right at the top was a conversation with someone named Amanda. I didn't know any Amanda, and Steven had never mentioned her. With shaking hands, I tapped the conversation. What I saw made me feel like I'd been punched in the gut. The messages went back months, hundreds of them. They started off innocent enough. Work talk, casual banter. But as I scrolled, I watched their relationship evolve in real time. Amanda: "Thanks for listening to me vent about my breakup. You're such a good friend." Steven: "Anytime. You deserve better than that jerk anyways." Amanda: "Lunch again tomorrow? Same place?" Steven: "Wouldn't miss it. Your company is the best part of my day." Amanda: "I can't stop thinking about our conversation last night. You really get me in a way no one else does." Steven: "I feel the same way. I've never connected with anyone like this before." On and on it went. Inside jokes, deep conversations, flirtatious comments thinly veiled as friendly banter. They'd been having lunch together almost every day, late night phone calls, weekend meetups for coffee that Steven had never mentioned to me, saying things like going out with the boys or claiming a quick errand he needed to run for a friend. The most recent message was from earlier that day. Amanda: "Can't wait to see you tonight. This project is just an excuse, right?" Wink emoji. Steven: "Maybe." Wink emoji. "See you soon." I felt like I was going to be sick. The pieces all fell into place. The late nights, the distraction, the constant texting. Steven wasn't working late. He was with her, with Amanda. I don't know how long I sat there, reading and rereading their messages, each word cutting deeper than the last. By the time I heard Steven's key in the lock, my shock had hardened into cold, seething anger. He walked in, looking relaxed and happy, not like someone who'd been working late on a stressful project. When he saw me sitting there, still in my date night outfit, his smile faltered. "Rhea? What are you still doing up? I thought you'd be in bed by now." I stood up slowly, holding out his iPad. "How was your project, Steven? Did you and Amanda get a lot of work done?" The color drained from his face. He opened his mouth, closed it, and opened it again. "Gloria, I can explain." "Explain what?" I cut him off, my voice shaking with anger. "Explain how you've been lying to me for months? How you been sneaking around with your coworker behind my back? How you blew off our date night to be with her? Stephen held up his hands placatingly. It's not what you think. Amanda and I are just friends. Close friends, yeah, but that's all. I laughed bitterly. Friends? Do you tell all your friends that you've never connected with anyone like them before? Do you blow off plans with your girlfriend to hang out with all your friends? We didn't do anything physical, Stephen protested weakly. We just talk. She understands me. And I don't? I interrupted. I'm your girlfriend, Stephen. I'm supposed to be the one you connect with, the one you talk to. Instead, you've been pouring your heart out to another woman and lying to me about it? Stephen ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident on his face. You're blowing this way out of proportion. Amanda and I are just close. It's not like I cheated on you. His words hit me like a slap in the face. Not like you cheated. Stephen, this is cheating. Emotional cheating is still cheating. You've been investing all your time and energy into this relationship with Amanda at the expense of ours. You've been lying to me, sneaking around. How is that not cheating? Stephen's defensive posture deflated slightly. I didn't think of it that way. I never meant to hurt you, Rhea. Amanda and I just clicked, you know? It was nice to have someone who got me, who I could talk to about anything. And you couldn't talk to me? I asked, hurt evident in my voice. What happened to us, Stephen? When did I stop being that person for you? He shook his head, looking lost. I don't know. Things have just been so easy with Amanda. No pressure, no expectations. With you, it's like, I don't know, like we're stuck in a routine. His words stung, but I forced myself to stay calm. Relationships take work, Stephen. They're not always easy. If you're feeling disconnected, you should have talked to me about it, not gone running to another woman. Stephen nodded slowly, guilt creeping into his expression. You're right, I screwed up. I'm sorry, Rhea. It won't happen again. I'll cut things off with Amanda, I promise. But as I looked at him, I realized something. The anger and hurt were still there, but now they were mixed with something else. Relief. Relief that I finally knew the truth. Relief that I could stop doubting myself, stop wondering if I was crazy for feeling like something was off. And with that relief came clarity. No, Stephen, I said quietly. I don't think you will cut things off with Amanda. And even if you did, how could I ever trust you again? How could I believe you when you say you're working late or when you're texting and smiling at your phone? The trust is gone. Stephen's eyes widened as he realized where this was going. Rhea, please, we can work through this. I'll do whatever it takes. Couples therapy, open phone policy, anything. I shook my head sadly. It's too late for that. You made your choice, Stephen. You chose Amanda over me, over and over again. Now I'm making my choice. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what I had to say next. I think you should leave. Tonight. I'll pack up the rest of your things, and you can come get them when I'm at work next week. Gloria, please, Stephen pleaded, reaching for me. I stepped back out of his reach. It's over, Stephen, please, just go. For a moment, he looked like he might argue further. Then his shoulders slumped in defeat. Without another word, he grabbed his keys and wallet and headed for the door. As he reached for the doorknob, he paused and turned back to me. I really am sorry, Rhea. I never meant for this to happen. I know, but it did happen, and now we both have to live with the consequences. And with that, he was gone. As soon as the door closed behind him, I sank onto the couch, the emotions I'd been holding back finally overwhelming me. I cried for what felt like hours, for the relationship I'd lost, for the trust that had been broken, for the future I thought we'd have together. But as the tears finally subsided, I felt something unexpected. Strength. I stood up for myself. I refused to accept being treated as second best. It hurt like hell, but I knew I'd made the right choice. The next few weeks were a blur. I threw myself into work, into friends, into anything that would keep me distracted from the gaping hole Stephen had left in my life. I redecorated the apartment, purging every trace of him. I started therapy, working through my feelings of betrayal and learning to trust my instincts again. It wasn't easy. There were days when I missed Stephen so much it felt like a physical ache. Days when I wondered if I'd made a mistake, if I should have tried harder to work things out. But then I'd remember the look on his face when I confronted him, the way he tried to downplay his relationships with Amanda, and I knew I'd done the right thing. About a month after our breakup, I ran into a mutual friend, Sam, at a coffee shop. After some awkward small talk, he hesitantly brought up Stephen. I heard about what happened, he said, sympathy in his eyes. I'm really sorry, Rhea. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. I gave him a small smile. Thanks, Sam. It's been tough, but I'm getting through it. He nodded, then seemed to debate with himself for a moment before continuing. I don't know if you wanted to hear this, but, well, I thought you should know. Stephen and Amanda aren't together. I blinked in surprise. What? Sam shrugged. Yeah, apparently once you and Stephen broke up, things got weird between them. The fantasy was gone, I guess. Last I heard, they're not even really friends anymore. It's made things pretty awkward at their office. I absorbed this information, not sure how to feel about it. Part of me felt a vindictive satisfaction. Their little emotional affair hadn't been worth blowing up two relationships for, after all. But mostly, I just felt sad. Sad for all the pain and mess that could have been avoided if Stephen had just been honest, with me and with himself. "Thanks for telling me, Sam," I said finally. As I walked home from the coffee shop, I thought about everything that had happened. The pain was still there, but it had dulled. In its place was a growing sense of pride in myself, in my strength. I trusted my instincts. I stood up for what I deserved, and now I was moving forward, building a life on my own terms. Stephen's emotional affair had revealed a lot about him, about our relationship, and about me. It had shown me that I was stronger than I'd ever realized, that I could trust myself, that I deserved better half-truths than divided loyalties. As I unlocked the door to my apartment, not ours, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The future stretched out before me, full of possibilities. And for the first time in a long time, I was excited to see where it would lead. The weeks turned into months, and slowly but surely, I found my footing in this new chapter of my life. I threw myself into work, taking on challenging projects that I might have shied away from before. My boss noticed my increased dedication and drive, and I soon found myself being considered for a promotion. Outside of work, I rekindled old friendships that had fallen by the wayside during my relationship with Stephen. I started going to a weekly yoga class, joined a book club, and even signed up for a cooking course, something I'd always wanted to do but never found the time for when I was with Stephen. Yes, Stephen's emotional affair had been painful. It had shaken my trust and forced me to reevaluate everything I thought I knew about our relationship. It had also taught me valuable lessons about self-worth, the importance of open communication in relationships, and about my own resilience. As I got ready for work that morning, I caught sight of myself in the mirror and paused. The woman looking back at me was different from the one who had discovered those messages on Stephen's iPad 6 months ago. She was stronger, wiser, and more self-assured. She knew her worth and wasn't afraid to demand the respect and honesty she deserved. The experience with Stephen and Amanda had been a painful chapter in my life, but it wasn't the whole story. It was just one part of my journey, a difficult but ultimately valuable lesson that had shaped me into the person I was becoming. As I headed out the door to face another day, I felt a sense of excitement and possibility. My story wasn't over. In many ways, it felt like it was just beginning, and I couldn't wait to see what the next chapter would bring. In the months that followed, life continued to evolve in ways I never expected. My hard work paid off, and I received that promotion at work along with a substantial raise. The extra income allowed me to start saving for a down payment on my own place, a goal that had seemed out of reach when I was with Stephen. I also started dipping my toes back into the dating pool. At first, it was terrifying. The thought of opening myself up to potential hurt again made me want to retreat into my shell. But with encouragement from my friends and my therapist, I slowly began to put myself out there. I had a few awkward first dates, a couple of short-lived flings, and one particularly disastrous setup that my well-meaning but misguided cousin insisted on. But each experience, good or bad, helped me refine what I was looking for in a partner and taught me more about myself. About a year after my breakup with Stephen, I met Alex. We were both volunteering at a local animal shelter. We bonded over our shared love of dogs and terrible puns. Our first date was a picnic in the park, where we spent hours talking and laughing. From the beginning, things with Alex were different. There was an openness, a transparency that I hadn't realized was missing with Stephen. Alex was upfront about their feelings, their past relationships, their hopes for the future, and in turn, I found myself being more honest and vulnerable than I'd ever been before. Stephen's emotional affair had been a painful chapter in my life, but it wasn't the end of my story. It was a turning point, a catalyst for growth and self-discovery. It had taught me to trust my instincts, to demand honesty and respect my relationships, and to value myself. Now, as I looked towards the future with Alex by my side, I felt nothing but excitement and hope. I had learned from the past, but I wasn't defined by it. I was stronger, wiser, and more open to love than ever before. The emotional affair that had once threatened to break me had instead become the foundation upon which I built a better, more authentic life. And for that, in a strange way, I was grateful. And in that moment, I knew with absolute certainty that whatever challenges life might throw our way, we would face them as a united front. No secrets, no emotional affairs, just us, figuring things out together. It wasn't always going to be easy, but it was real. And that made all the difference. Here are my thoughts about the story. We really can't have faith in humanity, huh? I mean, Gloria was so hopeful about turning around her and Stephen's deteriorating relationship and all. And then the Stephen-Amanda duo comes in to smash in the face of that optimism with a baseball bat. Can we have just one good thing that stays good on this planet? And the tiny detail about Sam mentioning that Amanda and Stephen didn't even work out was such a weirdly cathartic detail for me. Like, thank you, they get what they deserve. If those two were to run off into the sunset and have a happy life together, I think all hope would be dead. Nice to see that karma's still playing a decent role, though. And speaking of karma, good for Gloria for meeting Alex. Good karma for a good woman. God, this emotional hurt from just reading through those text messages must have been awful. If she isn't legally compensated for the absolute nightmare she was put through, then I guess this sort of divine intervention of fate on her part works too. But speaking of our local cheater in town, let's talk about Steven for a hot second. Dude, seriously? An emotional affair? That's like cheating with training wheels. It's still cheating, bro. He didn't even apologize properly, and I feel like that alone says enough about just where his emotional maturity levels are at. Like, are you a 5th grade boy? Can't own up to your own mistakes and apologize? Wait, no. I worded it wrong. My bad. Those weren't mistakes. That was genuine, deliberate, and nowhere near being just a simple mistake. Deal with the consequences, dude. If you can't be enough of a decent human being to at least apologize for the harm you've caused, then those consequences better come double down. But here's where the story really got me. Gloria's journey of self-discovery. The way she threw herself into work, rekindled old friendships, tried new things. It's the kind of personal growth that makes you want to stand up and slow clap. And then we get to Alex. Oh, Alex. Please do not turn out anything like Steven. We have our faith in you, dude. You got this. And even if you do screw something up, apologize. That already puts you in leagues above one who deserves not to be named. Treat our girl Gloria well, because clearly she's been a diamond in the rough for too long.
Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you again tomorrow.